Our learning objective is for students to identify the topic and central idea of the story by using supporting evidence from the text. Central idea is broken apart into kind of two big areas. Our first is our topic, right? The person or the thing the story is about. Then our central idea, our light bulb portion of the anchor chart, talks about how the most important idea or point of the topic, right? So our central idea is the most important idea or point about the topic. Our topic being who or what the story is about. And to determine this, we really need to find evidence, details, facts, or examples from our story to help us develop this understanding. So we will practice on identifying the central idea of a story with identifying the central idea by reading the story Harold and the Purple Crayon. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. And he needed something to walk on. He made a long, straight path so he wouldn't get lost. And he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. So, right now we have a character, right? And this is going to be the topic, the who or the what the story is about. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long, straight path. So he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. So, Harold is our topic. Again, we have that name reoccurring and our one character. So, now that we've identified the topic, let's think, what is the big idea? What is Harold doing in our story? Why is this thing that he's doing important? He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold. He backed away. His hand, holding up the purple crayon, shook. Ah. Suddenly he realized what was happening. Uh-oh. When he was shaking, he was making squiggles. Right? But by then, Harold was over his head in an ocean. Oh my goodness. He came up thinking fast, and in no time he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. There was nothing but pie, but there were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. He hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. And off he went, looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see, so he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired, and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped, and there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon, and he made a balloon, and he grabbed onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon, big enough to stand in. And he had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of the windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. He decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in his bed. Then, suddenly, Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed. He got in it, and he drew up the covers. The purple crayon dropped on the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. And that's the end of our story of Harold and the Purple Crayon. We know our topic, the who or what, is Harold. He is our character in the story. What we need to now determine is, what's the big idea? What is this story mainly about? So I want you to try to use your own words to think back from the beginning of our story, middle, and the end. What was happening all throughout the story? What was really that most important thing, that biggest takeaway, right? And try to use your own words to describe it. Share it with a stuffed animal, a friend, a parent, a grandparent, sibling, your pet hamster, right? Go ahead and practice that skill. Good job.